Some were naturalists. Some came to work the soil. And some to travel the entire length of these woodlands. It's just a thin ribbon of road, but it winds its way through some of the most remarkable land on Earth. The Blue Ridge Parkway, a unit of the National Park Service, connects the Great Smoky Mountains and Shenandoah National Parks. A place so special that these mountains are congressionally designated as the Blue Ridge National Heritage Area. From Waynesboro, past Roanoke, Blowing Rock, Asheville, Cherokee. 469 miles of spectacular scenery. 151 bridges. 275 vista points. Over 200 communities and small towns, rolling through the valleys and the highlands, winding past forest and ravines. It's not just a road, it's a path to adventure. The journey of a lifetime.
My dad and I have been talking about this trip for years. We were going to ride the entire Blue Ridge Parkway from one end to the other.
This is really nostalgic. I mean, I haven't been here since I was a little boy. My dad and I took this trip on the Parkway. And now to be able to take this journey with my daughter, we're very fortunate to be able to do this.
Their trip, like so many to the Blue Ridge, is a journey back in time, where the culture here stretches back for centuries. It echoes across the hills. Larry Brown has been around music his whole life. He's one of many instrument makers in the area. It's a tradition that's passed on through the generations. His great-grandfather was a square dance fiddler, and now he's taken up the family tradition.
The fiddle that my great-great-grandfather played was handed down through the family, and now I own it, and that's the fiddle that I play on.
A classically trained violinist and writer, Larry pursues his passion for old-time mountain music. Today, he makes fiddles and violins.
When I'm carving away, I have in my mind a picture of exactly what shape and what response acoustically the wood's going to give me.
Each instrument is made by hand using antique tools he's collected over the years.
Many of the tunes that we play are actually hundreds of years old. The music is always passed down by ear. One fiddler will teach another fiddler, and the old will teach the young.
Europeans brought the fiddle. Enslaved Africans brought the banjo. And from their meeting 4 centuries ago in Tidewater, Virginia, a new American music was born. It lives on along Virginia's heritage music trail, the Crooked Road. Winding for over 200 miles across southwestern Virginia, the Crooked Road passes through some of the most musical places on Earth. Tiny rural Appalachian communities that have been producing extraordinary musicians for generations. These musicians have been creating old-time, bluegrass, and mountain gospel songs that have helped shape American music for decades. Celebrates the living musical culture of this region, which today not only survives, but thrives.
There are so many people that have flocked here from all over the country to play this type of music that you can always find a jam session or an evening session out in the yard or in somebody's living room where this type of music will be played.
thousands of jam sessions in the Blue Ridge region. This is just one of them. On Friday evenings, Larry and his friends, a group that includes regional and national fiddle champions, gather around campfires or out on front porches, and the good times roll. While some folks have the opportunity to enjoy the evening, others are already getting started on the next day's work. Like park botanist Dr. Chris Oldry. For Chris, the office is a rock face that's more than 1 billion years old.
Some of the most unique habitats on the parkway are these high elevation rock outcrops. And as a plant ecologist, conservation of these rare species is a high priority for the Blue Ridge Parkway, because if we don't do this important work, these species may go extinct and disappear from the face of the earth. One of my jobs is to monitor the rare species that occur in the park. The only way to tell whether these rare plants are stable is to check on them each year, even if that means crawling out on the rock face. Being out there on the rock, hanging from a rope, it's not exactly my idea of fun, but it's work that's got to be done, and it's important work. Typically at these sites we tag individual plants, we measure them, and record data about those species, and we link all that data over a period of time. If they're decreasing, then we would look for measures that we could take that would stabilize the population. I feel like I'm playing a small role in the protection and preservation of these rare plants.
From dogwood and iris to flame azalea, and with over 100 different species of trees, it's no wonder that naturalists and artists have been drawn here for years. And they're not the only ones. For generations, families have been coming to enjoy the simple pleasures: camping and fishing and hiking the land. These mountains contain some of the wildest spots in the eastern United States. Untouched, untamed. For centuries, it's been an oasis of calm.
Look at this, we're in Mabry Mill. This is where I used to love to come when I was a kid with your granddad, believe it or not.
I can't imagine you as a kid.
Look at how far we've come in Virginia.
A further away. I don't want to explore with you.
Well, look at how far we've got to go.
The Blue Ridge Parkway is more than one road. It's the gateway to an entire region. Hundreds of trails and opportunities to explore. Much more than just take a motorcycle ride. They're here to follow those trails as they intersect with the remarkable peaks of their heritage. They're traveling into the heart of an extraordinary region full of natural diversity and a great melting pot of creative talent, old-time folk traditions, and home to thousands of remarkable artisans. Like Rob Mangum, what Rob has found here at the Blue Ridge comes from the ground he walks each day. Like many of the master potters here, his creations are born out of the region's clay soil itself. and a tradition that's been passed from father to son.
Growing up in the pottery studio was a great way for me to learn how to work with clay, because as a child I could just walk into the studio, my parents were in there working, and I could grab a hunk of clay and make something, and that was a great way to learn it, is just to grow up around it.
To work with my son is always a pleasure. It's always great to get together and share and work together. I'm always amazed by Rob and Beth and their creativity and what they produce. They really have continued a tradition that runs very, very deep in this region.
Once the pot is glazed, you load it into the kiln and you fire it. Opening the kiln and seeing what's in there is so exciting. It's like Christmas morning. It's always an unknown.
I think it shows that our pots are made with a lot of love, a lot of patience, and they're made by hands that care.
Addie Turno is a master quilter whose works have been exhibited all over the United States. Like many of the quilters in the region, she too learned close to home.
My mom taught me how to sew when I was 7, the same way that my grandmother taught my mother. I've traveled all over the world looking for different kinds of cottons and silk fabrics. I have probably about 1,200 pounds of textiles, and there's nothing like bringing it all home and getting started on the next quilt. When I start making a quilt, the first thing that happens is pieces of fabric go up on the wall, and I get to see how the colors interact and how the patterns interact, and there's always adjusting that needs to happen. And as I take them off the wall and take them over to the sewing machine, it becomes a different pursuit altogether. I get to be very precise. Quilts are holders of our memories. There are oftentimes little pieces of our lives in quilts, and older quilts, they were actually the maps of a person's childhood. One of the saddest days for me is when I finish a quilt. On the other hand, it makes me really happy because I know that it's ready to go out into the world, and hopefully that will bring happiness to other folks.
If a new